In the heart of the Bamoum kingdom, where history and culture weave a rich tapestry, lived Nde, a young woman whose intellect and ambition burned as brightly as the African sun. Born to the royal family, Nde's dreams were nurtured and inspired by her father, Sultan Ibrahim Joya, the visionary ruler of the Bamoum Empire of Cameroon, and her mother, the wise, fierce and gentle queen. Her parents harbored secret hopes of her bringing honor to their family name. Nde aspired to rise above societal constraints and make her mark in education and business. Her family placed great value on education, hard work and the tradition of their people and ancestors. Her father, though traditional, encouraged her intellectual pursuits, and hoped that she would bring honor to their family through her achievements. Nde's mother passed away when she was young, leaving her father as her primary guardian and supporter. Cam was raised in a family of high social standing, with expectations to uphold their prestigious status. His mother, a fierce guardian of their family's reputation, has always instilled in him the importance of marrying a good girl within their tribe and social circle. Cam, however, has a rebellious streak and a deep admiration for the progressive changes happening in his society. The bustling marketplace of Fumban pulsed with life, a tapestry of vibrant colors, tantalizing aromas, and the rhythmic hum of trade. Merchants called out their wares, piles of golden millet, vivid indigo-dyed cloths, and spices so fragrant they seemed to dance on the breeze. The air shimmered with the afternoon heat, weaving through the crowd like an unseen spirit, carrying laughter, bargaining shouts, and the soft jingle of coins. Amidst this symphony of chaos, Nde stood by a stall draped in fine silks, her hands tracing the delicate embroidery of royal patterns. The sun caught the glow of her skin, and the wind toyed with the ends of her headscarf, turning her into a vision that seemed otherworldly. Across the stall, Cam, the son of a high-ranking Bamoum official, paused mid-step, the noise of the world falling away as his eyes locked onto hers. For a heartbeat, time stood still. The crowd swirled around them like a river parting for two stones, yet they stood anchored, bound by a force neither could name. Cam's presence was magnetic, his stature proud, his robes embroidered with the golden symbols of his lineage. He moved toward her with the quiet confidence of someone who belonged to power but was humbled by the beauty before him. Nde's heart raced as his gaze, intense and unwavering, met hers. The scent of cloves and frankincense lingered in the air between them, as if the marketplace itself held its breath, waiting for what came next. A sudden gust lifted the corner of Nde's scarf, and Cam instinctively reached out, his fingers brushing against the fabric, so gentle it felt like a promise. Cam took off his traditional hat in respect of her presence. "Forgive me," he said, his voice low and rich, but it carried the weight of someone accustomed to being heard. Nde's lips curved into a small knowing smile. She was no stranger to the attention of men, but this was different. There was fire in his eyes, a spark that mirrored her own unspoken defiance of the role society had cast for them. Around them, the market resumed its chaotic rhythm, unaware that something had shifted, something that would soon ripple through the annals of Bamoum history. For in that fleeting moment, amidst the clamor of trade and life, two souls had found each other, and the course of their destinies had been forever entwined. Nde and Cam's love was a delicate flame, flickering in the shadows of a world determined to snuff it out. Their secret meetings were a dance of risk and desperation, a battle against prying eyes and the ever-present shadows of their personal guards. Princess Nde moved through her days under the watchful gaze of guards and attendants who whispered behind her back and reported her every move to her parents. Every glance, every step, every word was scrutinized. Yet she found ways to outsmart them. She would feign fatigue to slip away early from gatherings, or pretend to take long walks through the palace gardens, always ensuring her footsteps led her closer to Cam. Her heart raced as she ducked behind thick hedges and ancient walls, her silk garments brushing against the earth as she hurried toward freedom. Cam was no less burdened. His guards trailed him like shadows, sworn to uphold his honor and protect his every move. But Cam was clever. He would send them on errands, fabricated duties that led them far from his path. Sometimes, he would leave his sandals at the palace gates as if he had retired for the evening, only to slip barefoot through the quiet back alleys under the cover of darkness. They met beneath an ancient baobab tree, their sanctuary. Its massive trunk loomed like a fortress, its branches reaching out to shield them from the world. As they approached from opposite directions, their breaths would quicken, not just from the danger but from the sight of one another. Nay's eyes would dart over her shoulder, ensuring no shadow followed her, while Cam would listen intently for the distant shuffle of footsteps. When they finally reached each other, all caution melted into the night. Cam would clasp her trembling hands in his voice low but fierce. "No one saw you." "No," they would whisper, though her heart thundered. "But they grow suspicious." He would pull her close, the weight of their love pressing against the walls of secrecy. "We will outsmart them again," he promised. "We always do." Their stolen moments were fleeting, but they burned brighter than any flame. They whispered their dreams in hushed tones, vows of love carried away on the wind. The baobab stood silent, its roots digging deep into the earth as if anchoring their forbidden love in place. But the world beyond its branches was merciless, a world that would tear them apart if it discovered their secret. Whenever the time came to part, they lingered, their hands reluctant to let go. Cam would watch Nay disappear into the shadows, her figure swallowed by the night. Only then would he slip back into the world of duty and expectation, his heart aching for the next meeting. Every encounter was a triumph, a victory over a society that sought to keep them apart. But with each passing night, the risk grew greater, and the whispers of suspicion grew louder. Still, they returned to the baobab tree, where love dared to defy the world. Despite the intense connection, Nay and Cam knew their love was forbidden. The truth of their love could not be hidden forever. Rumors began to swirl like restless winds, gossiping of Cam and Nay's fleeting disappearances, each one more frequent than the last, and each wrapped in a veil of intrigue that raised more and more gossip, speculation and questioning. When their families heard rumors of the relationship, the ground shook with disapproval, reverberating through the walls of their homes and echoing across their tightly knit community. Nay and Cam had always known their love would be met with resistance, but neither of them was prepared for the storm that followed. The rumors began as whispers, quiet conversations behind closed doors, suspicious glances exchanged at the marketplace, and curious inquiries disguised as casual chatter. Soon, the whispers grew louder, spreading like wildfire across the kingdom. Nay's father, a man of deep-rooted tradition and unshakable pride, was the first to hear of it. Torn between pride in his daughter's achievements and fear of societal backlash, he defended her honor fiercely in public. "My daughter would never betray her family or her place in this world," he declared to a group of elders, his voice loud and resolute. But behind closed doors, doubt and fear gnawed at him. He confronted Nay in their home, his expression a mix of anger and confusion. "Tell me the truth, Nay," he demanded, his voice low but sharp. "Is there any part of these rumors that is true? Are you meeting with this boy?" Nay stood before him, her heart pounding in her chest. She wanted to deny it, to tell him that the rumors were lies, but the truth burned in her throat. She could not lie to her father. "Yes," she whispered, barely audible. Her father's face fell, as if the weight of her single word had crushed him. He turned away, his shoulders slumped. "You must end this, Nde," he said after a long silence. "You know your position in this palace and you know the tradition. You must end this before the gossip spread further and bring shame to this family." Do you understand what this could do to us? To you? Nde's eyes stung with tears, but she nodded. She understood that her father's words came from duty and fear. The duty to protect his people and to protect the tradition and way of life that his ancestors had fought to uphold. Fear of a world that judged harshly, fear of losing the respect and trust of his council and their community. But it didn't make the pain any less. On the other side of the kingdom, Cam faced his own reckoning. His mother, a woman of unyielding ambition and fierce loyalty to her family status, had heard the same rumors. To her, the idea of Cam and Nde was unthinkable, a disgrace that could unravel everything she had worked for. "What is this nonsense I'm hearing, Cam?" she asked, her voice sharp as a blade. "Is there anything going on between you and Princess Nde?" Cam did not hesitate. "Yes, mother. I have wanted to tell you for some time. I have deep feelings for her." His mother's face contorted with anger. "Well, whatever it is, you must end it now. You know your position, and you know the tradition." "Mother, I love her," Cam replied. "Love. Love is a foolish boy's dream. You are not a boy, Cam. You are my son, and you will marry within your clan. Do you understand the shame this will bring upon us, if we break the tradition we are supposed to uphold? The whispers, the judgments, they will tear us apart." Cam clenched his fist, his voice trembling. "People make traditions, traditions do not make people," Cam replied. "You will end this," his mother snapped, her tone cold and final. "Or I will ensure you regret it. Family is everything, Cam. Do not forget that." The days that followed were heavy with silence and unspoken pain. Both families, desperate to avoid public shame, decided to squash the rumors and keep the taboo a secret from the world. But behind the scenes, they applied relentless pressure on the young lovers, demanding they end whatever meetings or connections they had. Nde's father reminded her of her duty to the family, of the sacrifices her ancestors had made so she could stand where she stood. Cam's mother spoke of betrayal, of how his actions would destroy everything they had built. Nde and Cam found themselves trapped between their love and their family's expectations. Each stolen moment together felt like a rebellion, a fleeting glimpse of freedom in a world that refused to let them be. They strictly limited their meetings to once every full moon, as their guards were even more vigilant on their movements. Their meetings became even more important. They met in secret, in shadowed corners, beneath the cover of night, the whispered promises carried away by the wind. "We can run away," Cam said one evening, his hands cradling Nde's face as tears glistened in her eyes. "We can leave all of this behind." Nde shook her head, her voice breaking. "And what then? We would have nothing. No family, no home. We can't do that to our families, and I can't do that to you, Cam. I can't do that to myself." "You are right, we have a duty to our people." "Then what are we supposed to do?" he whispered, his heart aching with helplessness. "I don't know," Nde replied, the truth of their situation pressing down on her like a weight she could no longer carry. "Then we must find a way to make them accept our union. We must find a way to make the gods accept our union." Cam spoke with conviction. As the days turned to weeks, their love became a quiet war, a battle they fought with stolen glances and secret letters, with dreams of a future that felt just out of reach. But the walls were closing in, and both Nde and Cam knew that their time was running out. The world would not bend for them, and the pressure to conform was becoming unbearable. Yet even in the face of such adversity, their love remained. It was a fragile thing, battered by the storms of tradition and expectation, but it endured. Cam and Nde's secret was finally exposed by Cam's close friend and trusted childhood companion and confidant, Malik. Malik had been by Cam's side for as long as he could remember, through boyhood mischiefs, shared secrets, and whispered ambitions. He was the one Cam had trusted with the whole truth of his forbidden meetings with Nde, believing that Malik's loyalty was as unshakable as the mountains that surrounded their kingdom. But loyalty, Cam would learn, could be fragile in the face of temptation. Now as grown men, Malik had not intended to betray his best friend Cam at first. He had been sworn to secrecy, yet envy crept into his heart like a shadow. Watching Cam risk everything for Nde, a woman of another tribe, though beautiful, graceful, and of a noble and respected bloodline. This stirred a bitterness Malik could not silence. Malik cared for Cam and could not bear to see him lose everything his family had fought for, so he thought something needed to be done to save his friend from this, before it was too late. But Malik did not know what to do. A noble elder, his suspicions sharpened by Nde's unexplained absences and Cam's enigmatic disappearances, cornered Malik with an offer, a favor in exchange for the truth. The weight of the moment hung heavy in the air, and Malik's resolve faltered. He hesitated, his loyalty and fear waged a silent battle within him, for a fleeting moment. Malik forced the elder to promise to protect his friend in the handling of this information. When the elder promised that Cam would be protected, with one breath, Malik finally shattered the veil of secrecy that had shielded Nde and Cam's fragile love. As the news reached the other elders, the fallout was swift and merciless. The scandal erupted like a storm, sweeping through the kingdom's courtyards and marketplaces. Word of their forbidden love spread like wildfire, carried on the lips of gossips and elders alike. Nde was dragged before her family, the once proud name of her noble house now tarnished by shame. Her father, a man of unyielding tradition, thundered with rage. "You have dishonored us," he bellowed, his voice echoing through the palace halls. Nde pleaded, tears streaming down her face, but her cries fell on deaf ears. Her fate was sealed. She was confined to her chambers, guarded day and night, as if her very presence threatened the family's honor. Cam fared no better. He was brought before the council of elders in his clan, staring at him with accusing faces of disappointment and fury. "You have betrayed your duty," the main elder said, his words heavy with finality. Cam was stripped of some of his privileges and forbidden from leaving the family compound. Guards were posted at every entrance, ensuring he would never again meet Nde under any circumstances. The consequences of their meetings rippled through the community. Whispers of their love became cautionary tales, spoken in hushed tones as parents warned their children against defying tradition. Confined to her chambers, Nde would sit by her window each night, gazing out at the horizon where the baobab tree stood tall in the distance. In her heart, she imagined Cam standing beneath its branches, whispering promises to the wind. She clung to the memory of his touch, his voice, and the dreams they had shared. Though they were torn apart, she refused to let her love be reduced to shame. Cam, too, carried Nde with him. In the distant land where he was sent, he would look at the stars and remember the nights they spent together beneath the tree's sheltering branches. He wrote her letters that would never be delivered, pouring his heart onto parchment, vowing that no distance or time could break their bond. "You are in every breath I take," he wrote. "They can keep us apart, but they cannot erase you from my soul." Though their love had been betrayed, it endured. The world around them had conspired to tear them apart, but in their hearts, they remained united. The baobab tree, once their refuge, became a symbol of their unbroken bond, a love that defied betrayal, tradition, and the forces beyond their control. And though they were apart, they both believed that one day, fate would bring them back together, where no whispers, no walls, and no betrayal could stand between them again. The years passed like the steady flow of a river, carving new paths yet never erasing the memories etched in its waters. Nde, confined to her chambers, found herself drowning in sorrow at first. But her spirit was unyielding, like the roots of the baobab tree that had once sheltered her and Cam. She refused to let her love or her life be defined by shame. Slowly, she began to dream of something greater, something that could not be taken from her, no matter how tightly the chains of tradition held her. With time, Nde's father, though still stern, began to soften. He saw her resilience, her intelligence, and her unwavering spirit. Reluctantly, he allowed her to leave her chambers, but only under the watchful eyes of guards. It was during these brief reprieves that Nde began to notice the children of her village, bright-eyed but burdened by the weight of ignorance. Many could not read or write, and their futures seemed dim in a world that demanded knowledge to survive. Nde's heart stirred with purpose. She made a bold request to her father, permission to open a school. At first, he scoffed at the idea. A woman teaching? What nonsense is this? But Nde was relentless. She argued that education would strengthen their people, make their kingdom respected beyond its borders. Eventually, her father relented, granting her a small plot of land on the edge of the village. With her vision clear and her determination unshakable, Nde transformed the land into a sanctuary of learning. Under the shade of the baobab tree, she gathered the village children and began teaching them to read, write, and dream. Word of her school spread, and soon children from neighboring villages came, their parents working for days to bring them to Nde. Her school became a beacon of hope, a place where young minds were sharpened and the chains of ignorance were broken. Far away, Cam had also carved a new life for himself. Banished from his home, he found refuge in a coastal trading hub. There, he discovered the value of the spices that grew abundantly in his homeland, pepper, ginger, and rare herbs that filled the air with their intoxicating aroma. Cam began cultivating these spices with care, learning the art of preservation and trade. His talent for negotiation and his keen understanding of the market soon earned him the respect of merchants from faraway lands. By the time he reached his 30s, Cam had built a thriving enterprise, exporting spices to distant continents. His name became known in bustling ports, where sailors spoke of the man whose goods brought warmth to the coldest winters and flavor to the dullest feasts. Yet, even as he rose to prominence, Cam's heart remained tethered to Nde. One fateful day, Cam received news that shook him to his core. A merchant from his homeland spoke of a remarkable woman who had defied tradition to open a school, educating the children of their kingdom. The merchant described her as graceful, fierce, and unyielding, a woman who taught beneath the baobab tree. Cam knew instantly that it was Nde. Determined to see her again, Cam began his journey home. He knew the risks, his family's disapproval, the elders' wrath, but his longing for Nde outweighed his fear. When he arrived at the edge of the village, he saw her from a distance, surrounded by children, her laughter ringing like music in the air. He had rehearsed this moment in his mind 1,000 times, yet now, as the tree came into view, his breath caught in his throat. There she was. Nde stood beneath the tree, her figure framed by the golden light of the setting sun. She was surrounded by children, their laughter filling the air as they played and recited Bamoum poetry. She looked radiant, her hair catching the light, her presence commanding yet gentle. Cam froze, his feet rooted to the ground. For a moment, he was that young man again, stealing glances at her across the village square, his heart pounding with forbidden desire. Nde turned, as if sensing his presence. Their eyes met. Time seemed to stop. The children's laughter faded into the background, the world narrowing until it was just the two of them, locked in a gaze that carried years of longing, pain, and unspoken words. Her lips parted in shock, her hand instinctively clutching the fabric of her dress. "Cam, is it really you?" she whispered, her voice trembling. He stepped forward, his movements hesitant, as though afraid she might vanish if he moved too quickly. "Nde, my love, it's me," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I've come back." Tears welled in her eyes, but she did not move. Her mind raced with questions, doubts, and the fear that this was some cruel dream. "Why?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Why now?" Cam closed the distance between them, his heart pounding in his chest. "Because I couldn't stay away any longer," he said, his voice trembling with raw emotion. "Every day without you was a battle I couldn't win. Nde, I've built a life that means nothing if you're not part of it. I've come back to make things right, to fight for us." Her tears brimmed over, spilling down her cheeks as her composure shattered like fragile glass. She took a hesitant step toward him, then another, her emotions a whirlwind of anger, hope, and sorrow. "Why have you come back, Cam?" she asked, her voice quivering. "I believed I would never see you again." She clutched the folds of her dress tightly, as though trying to hold herself together. Her tears threatened to betray her, but she blinked them back, unwilling to let her students see the storm raging within her. Cam's gaze softened, and he took another step closer. "I'm here, Nde," he said, his voice steady but thick with emotion. "I'm here to make things right, to heal what was broken." Nde shook her head, her tears now flowing freely despite her efforts to stop them. "But we cannot be together, Cam," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You know as well as I do, our traditions forbid it. They'll never allow us to be one." "I know," Cam said, his voice cracking under the weight of her pain. "I've carried that truth with me every day. But I've also carried you, Nde. You're in my heart, in my soul. They couldn't take you from me, not really. And now, I'm here to prove it. I'm here to fight for us, no matter the cost." For a long moment, she stared at him, her tear-streaked face etched with a mixture of disbelief and longing. Her eyes searched his face for any trace of hesitation, any sign that he wasn't the man she had loved so fiercely. But all she saw was the Cam she had always known, steadfast, unwavering, and utterly devoted to her. With trembling fingers, she reached out and took his left hand. Her grip was firm, yet her touch was laced with the urgency of someone afraid they might wake from a dream. Without a word, she turned and hurriedly led him away from the view of her students, her steps quick and deliberate. In her hurried steps, her headscarf slipped silently from her head, fluttering to the ground without her noticing. Her long, lustrous black hair cascaded down her back, catching the sunlight like silk and swaying with every step. It was just as Cam remembered, untamed, radiant, and breathtakingly beautiful. Once they were hidden from sight, she stopped abruptly and turned to face him. Her eyes roamed his face, her breath catching as she reassured herself that he was real, standing before her. And then, without warning, a cry escaped her lips, a sound that was equal parts anguish, joy, and relief. In a heartbeat, she threw herself into his arms, her tears soaking into his tunic as she clung to him with all the strength she had. Cam wrapped his arms around her, holding her as though he could shield her from every pain they had endured. "I thought I'd lost you forever," she whispered through her sobs. "Never," he murmured, his voice steady as he pressed his lips to her hair. "Not in this life, Nde. Not ever." In that moment, the world around them seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them, two hearts that had defied tradition, distance, and time to find their way back to each other. They stood there, their embrace a testament to the love that had defied tradition, betrayal, and time itself. Nde pulled back, laughing through her tears. "You're here," she said, her smile radiant. "I'm here," Cam replied, "and I'm never leaving again." In that moment, the baobab tree, once a symbol of their forbidden love, became a witness to their reunion, a love that had endured the storms of life and emerged unbroken, stronger than ever. Their reunion was not without its challenges. Ndé's father, proud Sultan Joya of the Bamoum Kingdom, demanded to know why Cam had returned. Cam knelt before him, not as a defeated man, but as one who had proven his worth. "I have built a life of honor," Cam said, his voice steady. "I have not come to take Ndé away but to stand beside her, as her partner, as her protector. Let me prove that our love is not a curse but a blessing to our land." Moved by Cam's humility and the success he had achieved, Ndé's father relented. The elders, too, saw the wisdom in uniting two souls who had defied the odds and emerged stronger. Cam and Ndé were married beneath the baobab tree, their love now a source of pride for their people. Together, they built a future that honored both tradition and progress. Ndé's school expanded, producing scholars who went on to serve the kingdom as leaders, healers, and diplomats. Cam's spice trade flourished, bringing wealth and recognition to their land. Their love story, once whispered in hushed tones, became a legend, a tale of resilience, defiance, and the unyielding power of love. And as they stood together beneath the stars, they knew that no force, no betrayal, no tradition could ever tear them apart again.